On First at 9 this Monday, the 1st of December 2025. Floods of sorrow. Cyclone Ditwa leaves Sri Lanka claiming 366 lives and leaving 367 missing. Rescue operations continue island-wide. Water levels recede. Mahaveli and Malvatoya flood warnings, however, extended. Demise of a hero. Pilot of crashed SLAF Bell 212 helicopter succumbs to injuries. Air Force appoints 9-member committee to probe the crash. Taking stock. The cabinet approves a committee under Rebuild Sri Lanka to oversee fundraising efforts. Government requests World Bank to prepare a damage assessment report. Political chasm. Parliament adjourned half-day over crisis concerns. Opposition walks out early, protesting the lack of a full-day debate. Ripple effects. Vegetable prices sky high amid fears of low harvests. CAA urges the public not to hoard goods, triggering artificial shortages.
Kalin baby soap රුපියල් 90කට. Kalin baby පොඩි හැමෝටමයි.
From Derana, this is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to First at 9 on Sri Lanka's premium news provider, Derana News Channel. I'm Tharindu Mahendra, joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. In your top story tonight, the death toll from the disaster situation grappling Sri Lanka in the wake of Cyclone Ditwa has increased to a tragic 366, while 367 people remain missing. The remains of nearly 30 people who lost their lives in landslides across the island were recovered today, adding to the toll. The remains of 7 people who lost their lives following a landslide were recovered today in the Gangoda area in Ududumbara Kande. 23 others are reported missing and search operations are underway with the participation of security forces and local residents. Meanwhile, 2 other landslides in the Kalalgamu area of Ududumbara have damaged 5 residences. The remains of 11 people who lost their lives in a landslide in Hanguranketha Nuwareliya were recovered today, bringing the total number of deaths at the location to 13. Tensions arose when a Hanguranketha Pradeshiya Sabha member arrived at the subsequent burial as residents alleged that authorities had failed to take action despite warnings of the precarious situation in the area. Search operations are ongoing to locate the missing persons from the Indulgodakanda landslide in Kurunegala. The remains of 9 people have been recovered, 3 of whom are members of the same family. Several landslides have obstructed road access to the Seapot and Derana areas in Yatiantota Kegol, where several people are missing. Those rescued are housed at Seapot Viharaya and Derana Viharaya temples. Similarly, road access to the Sorantota and Kandakati areas in Badulla are obstructed, making rescue operations difficult. A special mission was launched to rescue people trapped in the area with the support of Indian rescue teams. Rajamawatha from Mahiyangane to Kandy is completely blocked at 4 places due to landslides, and a portion of the road has been destroyed by mud and rocks from a landslide in the Udavatta area in Hanguranketha Nuwareliya. A large number of people travelling from Kandy and other areas to Mahiyangane, Monoragala and Badulla on Rajamawatha have been forced to stay at safety centres due to the road blockages which occurred on the 28th of November. Spring Valley village at the foot of the Namanukula mountain in Badulla is isolated due to the collapse of the bridge connecting it to the main road and landslides blocking the road through Bandaravela and Demodara. The Matale-Kandy railway line has sunk at 2 points between Yatavara and Patanpanaha railway stations. Operations are underway to clear the mounds of earth that have collapsed onto the Hatton-Colombo main road at Hatton, Shannon, Watavela, Rosalla, Diagala and Kalugala, where 1 lane is expected to be opened for traffic. A bridge in the Castlereagh area on the Hatton-Norton road has collapsed, disrupting traffic. Meanwhile, the army led efforts to clear a section of the Badulla-Passara main road which was completely blocked following a landslide. Meanwhile, the mound of earth that had collapsed onto the Sripada Hatton road near Ahalakanua in the Mahagiridamba area was cleared with the assistance of Hatton police officers, army personnel and local residents. The Sripada staircase, which was blocked by the collapse, was also cleared.
In light of the current situation, the National Building Research Organisation extends previously issued landslide warnings. Accordingly, red evacuation warnings are effective for 70 divisional secretariat divisions across 7 districts. If unusual noises emerge from the ground, springs of water suddenly appear or disappear, or fractures appear on walls, evacuate immediately from such places. Landslide warnings were issued for Sitawaka and Padukka in the Colombo district. When it comes to the Colombo district, more attention should be paid to the collapses of retaining walls rather than landslides.
If
you are not at home right now, we urge you to not return for the moment. You should only return after the location has been properly inspected and conditions have been assessed. Otherwise, there may be danger.
The Disaster Management Centre reports a tragic toll of 366 lives lost from disaster situations affecting all 25 districts of the island, while 367 remain missing. 88 deaths are reported from the Kandy district alone, where the whereabouts of 150 persons remain unknown. In Nuwara, 75 people have lost their lives while 62 are missing. 71 deaths are reported from Badulla, where 53 people are missing. In Kurunagala, meanwhile, 35 people are missing, while 37 deaths were reported, including 12 elderly persons who tragically perished at an elder care home which was submerged by floodwater from Maoya. However, local residents were able to rescue several occupants of the elder care facility.
ඔබේ සම හඳුනාගෙන ඖෂධීය ශාකසාරමය Forever face wash එකක් භාවිතා කරන්න.
අප වෙනුවෙන් කැපවූ ලංකාවේ අපේ අංක 1 ජාලය ඩයලොග්. දවටනේ නියම මිල සඳහන් ස්විස්ටෙක් නිෂ්පාදන මිලදී ගන්න. ස්විස්ටෙක් ගන්න ඕන හොඳම තීරණය.
Heavy flooding continues across several districts in Sri Lanka, even though Cyclone Ditwa has drifted away and rainfall has reduced. However, the Irrigation Department has issued 48-hour extended red alert flood warnings for the Malwatu Oya and River Mahavali. The department urges the public not to visit flood-affected areas as irreversible accidents can occur. Meanwhile, the Director General of the Road Development Authority notes that 15 bridges have been damaged due to the adverse weather, but assures that at least one access route to every city has been maintained.
Despite the reduction of downpours as Cyclone Ditwa drifts away, major floods continue to inundate several districts across the country. Low-lying areas in the suburbs of Colombo, including Hangwalla, Kadwala, Kalaniya, Ambatale, Angoda and Kolonnawa remain submerged. In Hangwalla, the inundation of main access roads have stalled vehicular movement and impaired relief efforts. Disaster-struck Kadwala also continues to be inundated, bringing traffic to a complete standstill. The Irrigation Department's Nagalagam Street Water Gorge reported 8.2 feet of water running through the Kalani River by 6 p.m. this evening, indicating major floods in several low-lying areas. However, the reading at the Hangwalla Water Gorge stood at 8.61 meters this evening, indicating minor floods with water levels continuing to fall. Meanwhile, the overspill of the Ambatale Dam continues to discharge water into the Kalani River, further inundating Walivita, Ambatale, Galwana, Angoda, Kotikavatta, Wellampitiya, Kalaniya, Kolonnawa and Sedavatta. Off the back of these developments, Colombo District Secretary Prasanna Ginege shed light on the destruction caused by the incessant floods.
කොළඹ දිස්ත්‍රික්කය තුළ පසුගිය දිනවල ඇති වූ ආපදා තත්ත්වය හේතු කොටගෙන
246,359 individuals of 63,047 families across 397 Gramanilidari divisions of the Colombo district have been affected by adverse weather. 3 fatalities were reported, while 2 remain missing. 6 houses have been completely damaged, while 1,187 houses have been partially damaged. More than 20,000 individuals have been evacuated to safe zones. The military and the divisional secretariats will furnish these safe zones with all necessities on behalf of the state. Many people from various areas across the country have come to our aid with donations. We urge them to coordinate the distribution of aid and donations with the district secretariat. You might run into accidents if you start distributing aid to disaster-struck areas. If that happens, our relief operations will be further constrained. Therefore, we urge you to coordinate the provision of relief with the military and the divisional secretariat.
ආධාර බෙදාදීමේ කටයුතුවලදී දායකත්වය ලබා දෙන්න කියලා ඉල්ලනවා.
To avoid fatal accidents while torrents of water flow through the Kalani River, the Irrigation Department advises the public to avoid visiting the Kalani River flood control dam near the Kalani Rajama Viharaya.
At the moment, the water levels in many rivers are decreasing. However, everyone must be aware that receding water levels also bring danger. Therefore, we urge everybody to refrain from visiting the Kalani River flood control dam. If you don't heed our instructions, our relief operations will be even more difficult. Please be aware that you are visiting a river with a colossal amount of water. Certain accidents may be irreversible.
Meanwhile, inundations across Gampa had reduced by this morning, although several main access roads remained drenched in floodwater residue. Nikambo, however, remained submerged. As citizens continue to be inconvenienced by the destruction of key transport infrastructure across Sri Lanka, Director General of the Road Development Authority shared his thoughts with the media.
Floods damaged several access roads across Sri Lanka. However, we have cleared out the debris of flood-affected roads and gradually opened them up for traffic. 15 bridges have been damaged. Despite challenges, we have cleared out landslide debris and opened many roads up for traffic. We have also taken steps to at least open up one access route to every city. Our efforts led to every city gaining access roads. We urge the public to not engage in conduct that disrupts our efforts. This is not the time to visit disaster-struck locations.
Farmlands in the north remained inundated following the incessant rains that pelted the island last week. With the increase of the water levels of the Nandikadal lagoon, Wattapalai Kovil too remained submerged. The Disaster Management Centre noted that the Nayaru Bridge in Mullaitivu has collapsed due to severe flooding. As a result, vehicular movement along the Mullaitivu to Valioya, Mullaitivu to Trincomalee and Mullaitivu to Kokilai routes has been disrupted. A section of a bridge over River Kala has been destroyed due to overflowing water. Accordingly, motorists travelling from Galnava to Kakirava are advised to use alternative routes. With Daduroya reaching spill levels, several areas including Bingiriya, Wellangiri and Mola Elia remained flooded. Meanwhile, cleanup operations were initiated at a number of locations where floodwaters had receded. However, several reservoirs continue to overflow, disrupting the livelihoods of the public. The overflowing of River Mahavali continued to inundate a number of farmlands in Polonnaruwa. As the river overflowed from the Kinnia, Upparu and Gange areas in the Trincomalee district, the low-lying areas in the vicinity of the river remained flooded. The embankment of Mavillaru Reservoir had ruptured at several places due to strong river currents inundating the Mutur, Nilapala, Dehiwatta, Sirimangalapura areas by this morning. In light of the prevailing situation, the Irrigation Department has extended the flood warnings for River Mahavali for another 48 hours. Similarly, the department also extended flood warnings for Malwatu Oil. In response to the heavy flooding, the Sri Lanka Air Force launched rescue and relief operations in the affected areas. In an operation launched from the airfield of the Air Force Academy in China Bay in Trincomalee, the 4th Squadron of the Ratmalana Air Force Base rescued 3 pregnant mothers trapped in the Seruavela area using a Bell 412 helicopter and escorted them to safety centres. The irrigation engineer in charge of the reservoir stated that by the afternoon the water level of Mavilaru Reservoir had dropped by about 5 feet below top of the embankment. Meanwhile, the outpatient department of Mahayangane Base Hospital was reopened for the public this morning. The Ministry of Health categorically rejects claims circulating on social media suggesting that the National Institute of Infectious Diseases and the National Institute of Mental Health in Mullairiyava are flooded. The ministry emphasized that despite flood conditions prevailing in the area surrounding these institutions, the activities and services of both institutions are functioning normally without disruption. With the disaster affecting multiple regions, transportation networks across the country came to a standstill. General Manager of Railways Ravindra Padmapriya reported that the usual 200 daily railway journeys have now been reduced to just 74.
There are 9 final destinations along the train routes, of which only 4 journeys remain operational at the moment. If we are able to restore the Northern Railway line up to Anuradhapura, we will be able to resume the remaining services. However, the Matale railway line has been severely damaged due to landslides, and similarly, travel to Kandy on the upcountry railway line has become challenging. In addition, 7 landslides have been reported along the railway line to Badulla. The main road network has also suffered over 40 landslide incidents, and the damage caused by these events must be addressed urgently.
Despite these challenges, normal traffic flow has resumed on the A9 route from Jaffna to Kandy after several days of flood-related obstruction. Similarly, the A7 road from Hatton to Colombo, which had been closed for over 4 days due to landslide, has reopened to the public.
30% discount on Apico Farm and Spring mattresses, available at Apico Supercenter and Apico Daily.
Musa Phoenix Nattal Fiesta, November 13 සිට 16 දක්වා අනුරාධපුර ස්පොට්නික් ක්‍රීඩා පිටියේදී.
Cyclone Ditwa, which weakened into a deep depression and is positioned 300 kilometers north-northeast of Kankasanture after drifting away from Sri Lanka, is weakening further as it moves north. The earlier warning for naval and fishing communities has been lifted, but unstable weather continues to persist. The depression, now over the southwest Bay of Bengal, is slowly drifting towards the coasts of North Tamil Nadu.
The deep depression, located near latitude 12.3 degrees north and longitude 8.6 degrees east, around 300 kilometers north-northeast of Kankasanture, is now moving northwards away from Sri Lanka and gradually weakening. Authorities have withdrawn the earlier warning for naval and fishing communities, though unstable weather conditions remain. Showers or thunder showers are expected in sea areas from Kaluthura to Puthuvil via Gaul and Mathura, with a few showers likely from Trincomalee to Mana via Kankasanture. Southwesterly winds will range between 25 to 35 kilometers per hour, increasing to 50 kilometers per hour at times from Puthlam to Trincomalee and from Gaul to Puthuvil via Hambantota. Sea conditions may be fairly rough in these zones, while in other areas it will remain moderate. Strong gusty winds and very rough seas are possible during thunder showers. Cyclone Ditwa, after moving away from Sri Lanka, has now weakened into a deep depression over the southwest and adjoining west-central Bay of Bengal, close to North Tamil Nadu, Puducherry and South Andhra Pradesh coasts. The deep depression has been moving slowly northwards at around 3 km per hour during the past 6 hours and is expected to continue drifting northwards parallel to the North Tamil Nadu and South Andhra Pradesh coasts.
Welcome back to First at 9. And now the Sri Lankan cabinet has approved the creation of the Rebuilding Sri Lanka Fund to support national recovery following the severe damage caused by Cyclone Ditwa. The fund will operate as a statutory board under the Presidential Secretariat and will be overseen by a management committee comprising government and private sector representatives. The committee will be chaired by Minister of Labour and Deputy Minister of Finance and Planning Dr. Anil Jayantha Fernando, with Senior Additional Secretary to the President GMRD Aponso serving as the convener. Other members include senior government officials and leading private sector executives from major Sri Lankan companies. The committee is tasked with identifying recovery needs, prioritising and allocating resources, and ensuring transparent financial management, auditing and disbursement of funds for approved rebuilding activities. In the wake of the death and destruction left by Cyclone Ditwa, President Dissanayake addressed the nation yesterday and called for a united national initiative to rebuild disaster-struck Sri Lanka, setting aside all political differences. Hailing a well-coordinated national plan as imperative for Sri Lanka's multi-sectoral restoration, the President reveals that top government authorities have already been tasked to take stock of the damage caused to key infrastructure. Meanwhile, off the back of pertinent discussions with the World Bank, it has undertaken the completion of a post-disaster damage estimation report to be submitted within 2 weeks.
As
a nation, we are facing the largest and most challenging natural disaster in our history. What we are undertaking is also the most difficult rescue operation we have ever seen. This is the first time our entire country has been struck by such a catastrophic disaster. With the entire nation affected, this is a highly complex challenge that we must confront together. Our small island has been shaken by this merciless disaster. If it were possible to give life back to those who perished, we would do so definitely without hesitation. On behalf of the families of all those who have lost their lives, we extend our heartfelt sympathy. We also warmly embrace the arms of everyone who stepped forward to comfort the affected and to support the recovery effort in the wake of this calamity. Looking ahead, we must face the immense task of reconstruction and recovery. The scale of destruction is severe and it will take concerted effort from all of us to rebuild. Our first priority is to save all lives and provide immediate relief to those impacted by the disaster. The armed forces and the police have performed heroic acts, risking their lives without hesitation. We should take pride in their efforts and as a nation, we must honor them. We are also deeply grateful for the assistance provided to us by our neighboring and friendly countries. Helicopters and relief teams have already been deployed, offering their support and solidarity. We sincerely appreciate this help on behalf of our people. At the outset, certain bureaucratic procedures delayed the distribution of relief to those in need. However, we have now streamlined these processes. Additionally, financial constraints previously faced by officials have now been relaxed. For example, divisional secretaries now have the authority to spend up to 50 million rupees directly for emergency purposes. This expands the legal and operational capacity needed to implement relief measures effectively. 30 billion rupees set aside from previous budgetary allocations can be expended without parliamentary approval. These funds have been specifically designated for this purpose. Should the allocations in the 2025 budget prove insufficient, we will take necessary action through the supplementary estimates and powers vested in Parliament to secure additional provisions. A significant portion of our infrastructure and services have been destroyed. We have already implemented operational efforts across every sector to rapidly restore essential services and infrastructure. I am confident that within a very short period of time, we will be able to restore these vital services. This challenge came at a time while our nation was striving to advance and develop in a systematic and methodical manner. To restore these sectors swiftly, we will require a well-coordinated and rapid response plan. To that end, emergency laws have been enacted to provide the legal and financial safeguards necessary for efficient reconstruction. I assure to every citizen that these emergency powers will only be used for their intended purposes and that they will never be abused. We are in the process of setting up a fund to gather the necessary resources for the reconstruction effort. A joint management committee has been established comprising representatives of the private sector, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, the Minister of Finance and the Presidential Secretariat to oversee the fund. We are confident that we can mobilize a substantial amount of resources to rebuild our country. We are working closely with our international allies to secure their obtain additional support. Additionally, we are reaching out to our domestic business leaders and industrialists to contribute to the effort. Notably, Sri Lankan citizens living abroad are also working with great dedication and enthusiasm to provide support. It is crucial that we establish a strong fund to facilitate the country's recovery from this disaster. We have already put in place the necessary measures to mobilize and manage this fund effectively. We have requested all relevant entities to submit detailed plans for the restoration of their respective sectors. The Department of Irrigation was asked to submit information on the damage sustained by irrigation systems under its authority along with the funds needed for its restoration. Similarly, the Ministry of Agriculture was asked to submit information on the destruction caused to the agricultural sector and the funds required to rebuild it. We are compiling these requirements across all sectors. I kindly ask you to submit your plans for the reconstruction of your respective sectors along with the necessary provisions as soon as possible. At this crucial and challenging moment, let us set aside our political differences for the greater good of our country. There will be ample time for political discourse and debate later, but right now, we must focus on facing this disaster together. After the country has rebuilt itself, we will have the opportunity to engage in political discussions. Let us unite to rebuild our nation.
Meanwhile, a discussion with private sector representatives was held at the Presidential Secretariat, chaired by the President yesterday to review the country's recovery efforts. The discussion focused on the prevailing situation and the extensive infrastructure damage that requires major reconstruction. Meanwhile, the government has initiated talks with the World Bank to prepare an assessment report on the damage and reconstruction needs of the affected areas. Accordingly, the government has requested the World Bank to prepare a global rapid post-disaster damage estimation report as soon as possible. The government expects this global rapid post-disaster damage estimation report to be submitted within 2 weeks.
The Parliamentary Affairs Committee, which convened today under the chairmanship of the Speaker, decided to adjourn Parliament until December 3rd without proceeding with the budget debate, citing the need for both government and opposition MPs to directly engage in decision-making related to the ongoing disaster situation. However, outraged by the government's decision to adjourn proceedings prematurely, opposition MPs walked out of the chamber, complaining of the lack of time to air their concerns in Parliament.
The government is of the opinion that it is not suitable to continue parliamentary proceedings for the entire day given the current situation in the country. Each public representative here carries a major responsibility at this time. Yesterday, I discussed this matter with the Chief Opposition Whip as well. Therefore, I request permission to conclude today's parliamentary session by 11 a.m. The opposition unanimously decided that since this is a critical time, we must utilize the experience of all members here to face the current situation. Let us use today as an opportunity to discuss how we should respond and how we must move forward. I request that a meeting of party leaders be convened regarding this matter. Taking into consideration the current disaster situation in the country and in order to make a decision on the parliamentary proceedings, I adjourn Parliament for 30 minutes to hold a working committee meeting. The final decision is to adjourn parliamentary proceedings at 12:30 p.m. today and reconvene at 9:30 a.m. on December 3rd. We did not want to engage in a political debate. However, we must be aware that there is a lesson to be learned from not taking decisions based on the warnings issued by the Met Department. It is only fair that we discuss the solutions we can take, setting aside differences between the government and the opposition. We requested the opportunity to speak about this matter. The Met Department warned of this situation as early as November 12, but the government did not take adequate precautions to mitigate the risks. From now on, as a country, let us unite to work together to rebuild. We don't want to fight with the government. We will carry out our duties. We will leave this house now. Let us continue this debate until 12:30 p.m. Are you suggesting that this is not enough time? Why are you leaving without using the time allocated for you? The Leader of the House stated that we agreed to adjourn Parliament at 12:30 p.m. We did not agree to it. We clearly said that we need the entire day. Therefore, we are leaving. It is clear that the country has faced a major disaster. As the President said, if we have to start again from zero, we will start from zero. Even though some districts have been marked as red zones, there are no major issues and therefore we have resumed the construction of roads, transport services and waterways. The health sector is also resuming its operations. Meanwhile, we have rescued many people in the central province, including in Kandy and Kothmale. Yesterday, Special Forces soldiers marched to Talawatanna from Nuwara, where they are expected to establish a base camp. We have also delivered sufficient food supplies for 3 days to Kothmale. We must address this issue now. It will be pointless to discuss solutions afterwards. That is why at the meeting with the Speaker, we decided that the opposition may express their opinions and suggestions until 12:30 p.m. today. After adjourning Parliament at 12:30 p.m., we will return to operational responsibilities. This is not an issue of the government alone. Let us debate on whether or not we acted on the warnings and data appropriately later on.
Meanwhile, the Sri Lanka Army, Navy and Air Force continued their missions to rescue people affected by floods and landslides across the island. Dry rations, drinking water and medicine were delivered aerially to many areas inaccessible by land.
The Sri Lanka Air Force today rescued 48 individuals displaced by an earth slip in Rattota Matale. The operation was conducted using an Indian Air Force helicopter deployed to support ongoing relief and rescue missions.
Another group displaced in Rattora was rescued by Sri Lanka Army teams. Meanwhile, the Air Force rescued flood-affected individuals in Kolonnawa, Wellanpitiya and Gampaha using a helicopter of the Pakistan Navy. Additionally, the Indian National Disaster Response Force, together with the Sri Lanka Air Force, rescued a group of people affected by floods in Kuchikade. Footage was released of the Sri Lanka Army's rescue of a group stranded on a bus in the Manik Farm area of Vaunia on the 29th of November due to the overflowing of Kal Aru. Meanwhile, Army personnel rescued inmates of the Kandakadu Treatment and Rehabilitation Centre. The Army also rescued a group of individuals displaced by the floods in Siduminiya Garkulam. The Sri Lanka Navy too conducted relief operations in a number of areas across several districts. Meanwhile, the Air Force delivered dry rations to a vulnerable community in Kotmale using an Mi-17 helicopter of the Indian Air Force. A group of injured individuals, including children, were also safely transported to Katunayaka. The Air Force also delivered dry rations, drinking water and medicine to many areas inaccessible by land. The Air Force urges the public to refrain from operating drones in areas where flood relief operations are underway. The Air Force warns that drone activity increases the risk posed to air rescue and relief missions, potentially leading to aerial accidents. The public is advised to notify authorities of any drone launches and groundings by contacting 0112 343 970, 0112 343 971 or the 115 hotline.
Air Force spokesperson Group Captain Erandagi Ganage says a committee of senior Air Force personnel has been appointed to investigate the crash landing of the SLAF Bell 212 helicopter in Lunuvilla yesterday. The pilot of the craft, Wing Commander Nirmal Siembalapitiya, tragically lost his life in the accident. Meanwhile, 5 Navy personnel deployed to ease the flood situation in Jaffna yesterday were reported missing.
A Sri Lanka Air Force Bell 212 helicopter engaged in distributing dry and fresh rations in the Lunuvilla area crash-landed into the Gin River last evening. The incident occurred while the helicopter attempted an emergency landing near the Lunuvilla Bridge. 5 Air Force personnel, including 2 pilots, were on board at the time. The injured were promptly evacuated with the assistance of residents in the area and transferred to the Maravilla Base Hospital for further treatment. The helicopter's captain, Wing Commander Nirmal Siembalapitiya, who had logged over 3,000 flying hours, tragically lost his life in the incident. Air Force spokesman Group Captain Erandagi Ganage revealed that a committee comprising 9 senior officers has been appointed to probe the fatal incident. Meanwhile, 5 servicemen of the Sri Lanka Navy were reported missing yesterday in the Chale area of Jaffna. They had been deployed to ease the floods by widening the estuary and increasing the flow of water into the ocean. The officer in charge of the Chale Naval Sub-Unit is also among the missing. According to Navy spokesman Commander Buddhika Sampath, a comprehensive search operation is currently underway with the assistance of other branches of the military and international support forces.
Welcome back. Now, heavy rains and landslides have disrupted vegetable supplies from key farming areas, pushing wholesale prices sharply higher, despite the Agriculture Ministry confirming that produce is still reaching major markets. Authorities urge traders, farmers and consumers to act responsibly, avoid bulk buying and maintain fair pricing as shortages and transport challenges persist.
The Ministry of Agriculture claims that large volumes of vegetables including cabbage, carrots and beans are now reaching the economic centres in Valimada, Kappetipola and other parts of the Badulla district, one of the country's key vegetable producing areas. Traders have been urged to arrange transport through accessible routes such as the Allavallavaya road to ensure uninterrupted supply during the current challenges. The ministry also called on all stakeholders to support the supply chain in a bid to ensure affordable prices and uninterrupted supply. However, wholesale prices at the Dambulla Dedicated Economic Centre have risen sharply. Carrots now sell between 700 to 1000 rupees per kilogram, while beans and leeks range between 500 to 800 rupees. Pumpkin, previously around 30 rupees per kilogram, is now priced at around 100 to 130 rupees. Traders attribute the surge to widespread damage to vegetable fields caused by the recent heavy rains and landslides.
පාරිභෝගිකයන් සීමිත ප්‍රමාණයක් මිලදී ගන්න තොගරැස් කිරීම කරන්න එපා සියලු
We urge you to only buy the amount you need. We strongly advise against purchasing in bulk. We have also spoken directly with supermarkets and we understand that they too may have limited stocks. Therefore, we ask everyone to consider how these goods can be distributed fairly. We have not set fixed price controls for certain items, so we cannot intervene directly. However, we urge both traders and farmers not to exploit the situation for excessive profit and to sell their goods at a fair and reasonable price. If these are vegetables, grains or essential food items such as dal, onions, potatoes and other food, we request that these items be sold at fair prices as well. Furthermore, for items that do fall under price regulations, if they are sold above the approved price, we will take firm action. We have the authority and power to do so under the Public Security Ordinance.
කරනවා. ඒ සඳහා අවශ්‍ය බලතල අපිට මහජන ආරක්ෂක පනත මගින් ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා.
Meanwhile, Loves Gas PLC has confirmed that there will be no price revisions for domestic gas cylinder refills during December 2025. The announcement was made by the company's cluster director and the CEO, Dr. Niroshan J. Piris. Accordingly, the retail prices in the Colombo district will remain at 4,100 rupees for a 12.5 kilogram cylinder and 1,645 for a 5 kilogram cylinder.
Derana's relief operation continues for the fourth consecutive day to support the communities affected by the devastating inclement weather. Even now, the TV Derana headquarters in Colombo is receiving a large influx of donations to be safely distributed to affected communities across all districts.
The Derana Dialogue Flood Relief Operation, launched 3 days ago, continues to support communities affected and left vulnerable by the prevailing disaster conditions. Throughout the past 3 days, donors have come forward in large numbers with contributions to strengthen the national relief effort. Dry rations and other essential supplies were brought to the TV Derana head office in Colombo today as well.
The Derana flood relief operation continues for a fourth consecutive day, providing support to our very own people affected by the devastating inclement weather. Today too, the TV Derana headquarters in TV Jayamawatha, Colombo received large quantities of donations to be safely distributed to the affected communities across all districts. We are currently receiving many dry rations, but there is an urgent need for baby formula, milk powder and clothing for the affected families. Now we want to talk about the Derana flood relief operation. So what are the areas Derana has reached so far?
Yeah. Actually, last 3 days we have covered around Colombo, Western Province. Today we deliver the out of Colombo, especially Ampara, Batikalo and Kandy, the Gampola, those areas we have covered today.
Is there any specific help you might need moving forward?
Now we have to consider the real healthy matters. Civilians, they are facing some non-communicable disease. We really ask to help collecting some special item to face that difficulties.
The donations collected were subsequently dispatched from the Derana head office and distributed to families displaced by floods, landslides and other severe weather-related incidents.
We at Derana will continue to support all affected people in this hour of need.
According to the latest data released by the Department of Census and Statistics, the overall rate of inflation as measured by the Colombo Consumer Price Index on a year-on-year basis remained steady at 2.1% in November 2025, unchanged from October. The CCPI for all items in November stood at 193.4, recording a slight decline of 0.4 points from 193.8 in October. Year-on-year inflation for the food group increased to 3% in November 2025, down from 3.5% in October. Meanwhile, inflation for the non-food group rose to 1.7% from 1.4% during the same period. For November 2025, the DCS reported that food commodities contributed 0.95% to overall inflation, whereas non-food items accounted for 1.14%. Public officials united today to offer support to communities impacted by the severe weather. Meanwhile, the opposition leader Sajith Premadasa met with the Japanese ambassador to Sri Lanka seeking Japan's assistance in restoring damaged roads and railway infrastructure.
A key discussion took place today at the opposition leader's office in Parliament between opposition leader Sajith Premadasa and the Japanese ambassador Akio Isomata. During the meeting, the opposition leader urged the Japanese government to share its expertise, technology and workforce to help modernize Sri Lanka's damaged road network and restore the railway system. In a separate meeting, the ambassador of the Republic of Korea to Sri Lanka expressed her country's willingness to support Sri Lanka's effort in overcoming the current disaster. Meanwhile, in talks with European Union ambassador to Sri Lanka Carmen Marino, Premadasa called for urgent assistance to restore health services impacted by the disaster and to prepare for potential pandemic risks. Additionally, Premadasa inquired about the difficulties faced by communities in disaster-affected areas such as Kothatuwa, Vallampitiya and Kolonnava. Deputy Ministers Sunil Watakala and Eranga Gunasekara supervised the ongoing relief efforts and rescue operations in the Vallampitiya area.
At the moment, approximately 175,000 people have been displaced in this constituency. Some locations are extremely difficult to access. We discussed that for such locations, relief teams will need to use drone technology to locate the displaced. We also discussed that strict enforcement of the law against thieves is essential. The flood water level is forecast to decrease by tomorrow.
A special program aimed at restoring education for children impacted by the floods was launched under the leadership of Parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksha, national organizer of the Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna. The event took place at the Nugegoda Siri Dhamma Ramaya.
With the support of everyone in our party and with the participation of volunteers and the youth, we have launched a program to provide school supplies, uniforms and shoes to children in need. In the coming days, we plan to implement this program at the village level. As the floods and landslides subside, our aim is to help resume schooling for children in the affected areas. While we may not be able to recover everything that was lost, we are committed to restoring children's education in every possible way.
That's all for tonight from First at 9. Thank you for joining. Have a great night.